What is the Minneapolis Sound to you?
Well, there was a guy here. His name was Bobby Lau. He was our greatest jazz musician. He went to Japan for the Yamaha organ contest. When you win, you get a record deal and a $10,000 organ. So when he came back, I said, Bobby, congratulations. And he kind of teared up. I said, there'll never be any little Bobbies unless you help me do this school. He said, well, why me? I said, you play jazz. He said, what does that got to do with it? I said, jazz people have musicians that learn and master the instrument. They read and write music, and on average, they play 6 or 7 instruments. I want the north side, south side, the St. Paul kids to learn that. So when you get to jazz, you can conquer any genre of music because you first learn how to be a musician. Now, we also had an advantage. The advantage was we had no black radio station. So you had to buy records and play them for the public that couldn't hear them on the radio. So you're going to be better because you can actually play what's out there, but you know your instrument, you know reading and writing music, you know how to arrange. The only thing I had to teach them is how to do a show. How you step, how you dress, how you carry yourself on stage. They did the work. Now he went and got Jerry Hubbard, who was the best jazz guitar player we had. Jerry got his brother, Gene, who was the best drummer. They got Abner and them straight up out of Stillwater. They came home, they learned how to play instruments in the prison.
Wow.
And so because jazz plays late at night, we had to start our school 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So every day, including Saturday, the kids are coming from all over the Twin Cities, and they're forming bands. We got as high as 8 to 9 bands a year, but we taught more musicians than we did bands. See what I'm saying?
So would you consider the way an incubator?
Oh, it was without a doubt. Because not only that, this is the hard part about it that they're lying about today. Nicollet Avenue and Hennepin Avenue, you could go downtown and hear our music all day coming out the doors and windows. But when you go inside, they wouldn't allow black musicians to play, including First Ave. Including First Ave. So the Way gave them a place also to perform. Long before I did my festivals, they were in that back room. We moved all the school stuff into those 2 rooms back there and opened up that big room for the dances. And everybody, including him, played at those dances and got paid. So when I got so big, I had to do festivals. So I took them outside. And I did 3 festivals a year.
So I read about the Way's arts program.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I read, that the goal was to give individuals a lifetime career in the arts and to create original works. True?
Right. We did art, we did craft, we did dance, and we did music.
I mean, it's such a lofty thing because you were looking at the long term, not just the short term. You were looking at actually them having careers.
Right.
Whose idea was that, and how did that come to be? I mean, like, who came up? It's more than just the here and now. You were looking at a bigger picture.
Well, I was
who came up with that? Was that you?
That was me. It came from this. Being a poor kid, all my time I spent at the Wheaton, Phyllis Wheaton. So I ran track for him. I played football for him. And then I joined the Golden Gloves at 9 years old and boxed for him till I was 26. You gotta come out of the gloves at 15 and go into open division at 15, and the open division is 15 to 26. So I won 7 gold gloves. So what I did when I was at the Way, take the skills that they gave me and put them in the Way. Now what turned me on to music, there's a brother named Frank Jackson. His brother's name is Suge, and the other one name is Joe. And they're from Jacksonville, Florida. They came here as All-Americans to play sports for Augsburg College. They would work and pull their money together and do shows. So they were running with my first cousins, and they came by my mother's house. They said, we're about to do our first show, little Spike. You want to make some money? I said, doing what? I said, hang on posters, because we had no radio station, pumping. My job was to find a lamppost, it's a nickel every time I hang one up. And then it's a nickel to take them down or you get a fine back then. But they would also give me a ticket and a pass so I could be backstage and meet the stars. I'm 11 years old, knowing all these big stars exposed to music. So when I got exposed to music, I carried that into the way with me. And so now you're doing the football, the track, the boxing. Well, I was the captain of the Elks Drum and Bugle Corps and lead drummer. I was the captain of the Shriners Cato's Drum and Bugle Corps and lead drummer. So I created a drum corps. So I got the drum corps going, the boxing going, the football going, the track going. And then because of my love for music, it just automatically, I kept doing these dances, playing records, you know what I'm saying? And matter of fact, Jimmy Jam was spinning records before he was in the band. And so when I made enough money, I would hire bands, but I realized we ain't got no bands. So when Bobby made it, that's what made me step to him and ask him that question. And without hesitation, it was started.
Could the Minneapolis Sound have been created without the way?
No. Simply because you heard of woodshedding? We let them kids go back there and woodshed. Now you're developing the music. But here's the deal. It became automatic when you're forced to learn how to play a record because it's not on the radio. You can only woodshed to the end of the song, so you automatically becoming creative. You see? It was forced on you. Even when they played our music, it had to be the biggest star. Once every 4 or 5 hours, you're waiting to hear one black song. See what I'm saying? So that musician was critical to us with our own love of our own music to hear it.
And you, though, like I said, you were working on teaching them to be creative work. So were they just doing covers of black artists, or were you also working with them to create their own?
Both. That's the reason why you wanted jazz musicians. Because if you ever watch a jazz musician, they have a show, but then they'll run off and just go where they want to go. You know what I'm saying? They create while they're performing. Look at it this way. Which musician did Jelly Bean like the most?
Hendrix.
There you go. And what did Hendrix do?
Yeah.
Run off.
Yeah.
So I wanted my kids to master the musician. So when you met Sonny T, you met the highest level of mastering the instrument. Sonny's the only one of all of them who can play lead better than any of them, bass better than any of them, drums, piano, timbales. You see what I'm saying? But when he was young, he's the only kid I dealt with at 13 years old who could mimic all the singer's voice. Sonny could mimic him. He went to the bass because the family didn't have a bass guitar player. Nobody could outplay Sonny on the lead. And what made him great was from Jerry Hubbard came Craig Peterson. Craig Peterson was everything. He taught Sonny. So when Prince comes along, he's setting Sonny on one side, Craig on the other, literally bent over, putting it into this kid at 12 years old. The two best I've ever produced, putting it into it.
And Prince is just absorbing all of that.
First one in the class every day.
He said his drive from a very young age was so fierce.
You know why? It's a secret I've never said in all the people that have filmed me why he was the best at that. And you've seen human beings like that in different arenas. And one thing draws him in. He's one of those people. I never talk about it public, but I do know. There's no way to stop that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they become physicists, mathematics, scientists. And whatever it is, they might not do all of this, but they will perfect that. So when they interview me, I never talk about it. Of course I know. I had him at 12.
What went on that precipitated the forming of the Way?
We were at the Opportunity Parade, and we were on one side of the street watching the bands go by. And on the other side, they were getting the people to back up to the curb. And somebody bumped this little girl off the curb. So she turned to get back up on the curb, and the cop hollered, "Didn't I tell you people to get up on the curb?" And he took a nightstick. They just started beating her. So I weaved between the band to get to the other side. And the stick was in the air coming down again. I reached and grabbed it. And I literally hit it. And the kids hollered, "Man, that's still Spike out there." And they came from everywhere. And the fight was on. It was the next day we found out she was 14. But we threw rocks all night long, busted windows. And the next day, for the first time in the history of Minnesota, a mayor came to the black community. Marty Bragg came to a park in North Minneapolis. And he was asking us about, "What do you want?" We said we want fair unemployment. All of us want to work. But we want a place where we can go and be together of our own. That's not restricted by you and what you do. So we can learn our own history, our own culture. And they gave us a building that Fish and Limit used to have. And we were the laborers to remodel our own building. And so we started doing the dances, and we created a game room with pool tables, ping pong tables, vending machines, pinball machines. And it became a social gathering place. So then we started the culture, the African dance, all the African music, which led to our music. And we were rolling our music. And we created girls' dance groups. And then we created the teams. That's basketball, football, boxing, track, everything I did, we're going to do. And then we had a school, each one teach one. Operation Chain Gang, so the kids that are falling behind come there after school, will get you up and prepare you for college. And then we started the pageants for girls, dance group for girls. And then we started our own drum corps, like I had. You know? And we just kept building. And the civil rights stuff just kept coming at us. The wave came instantly.
It was instant. So let me ask you to today. 50 years later, and look at this.
I don't see that as a Minneapolis, Minnesota problem. I see that as an American problem.
Could the wave ever happen again?
Yes. Yes.
How would you go about if you had everything that you needed in play? What would you need in play right now? Could we create another way?
Well, you got to get a complete community center, and then you put that culture, the history, and that reality in there to make them better people. Look at it. Look at how comfortable they are with calling themselves the N-word, and that shows you what's missing without me. Look how comfortable they're calling their girls B's and H's. That would never happen with me. Look at Jelly Bean and tell you couldn't come away and expect to get beat up. I'm not allowing that. You see what I'm saying? If you walk in there, you got a white girlfriend, you got a white boyfriend, you're in there for that party. You're not getting beat up in here. It's not happening. You can't. Don't take racism and make it yours. That's what damaged you in the first place.
And I said, why didn't you guys all just stay at North and be like a powerhouse basketball team? And he was like, oh no, we want to play against each other. Mm-hmm. That's how competitive they were.
Because we had teams all over the north side. I mean, even the Golden Gloves, you had to fight to get out of here before you dealt with the city. The gym is worse. The gym is, but you can make it out of our gym. This stuff out here is nothing. See, and so the whole attitude of the Wheatley is you can do it. It was never, they never went to play the game. They went to win the game.
Right.
They never went to box. They went to win.
And it was the same with the music.
Yes.
Jelly?
Everybody's fine until I put the family on the stage. That's what he would tell you. When I put the family on the stage, put the baby to bed, close the door,
you were
good night.
The family was scary. That's how we used to say they were scary.
Oh, they would shut it down because they were there the longest. And they were there, they lived there. And they became the house band. So I would always put them on last. Because the one thing they did, everybody going, they still in that back room. They still perfected. When I took Prince on the road, I took him with them at 14. That's who he was with, the best band I had. And the family was the best band I had. But I mean, they perfected, Sonny and them perfected everything they did.
the black bands that came up through the way in the 60s and 70s, what was their reality for playing in a club in Minneapolis in that era?
It did not exist. That's why we hit the Chitlin Circuit. And our Chitlin Circuit, Des Moines, Iowa, Waterloo, Iowa, Rock Island, Illinois, Peoria, Illinois, Kansas City, Monroe City, Hannibal, Macon, Missouri, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Denver, Colorado. Those were our states where we could go. As long as you got the money. We would leave on Thursday night and get where we going. Come back Sunday night so people go to school or work. And we went in buses. Matter of fact, Jelly Bean and them, they had a bus that they converted. But that's how we got to getting our money.
And that was because there was no clubs.
No, they wouldn't hire black.
Where they could play.
They actually would say this to your face. A black band will draw a black audience.
Too
For
many.
all of them, including First Hand, discriminated all those years. The first black to make it out of here was D. Clark.
Who?
D. Clark in the rock and roll period. He did a Hey Little Girl with the high school stockings. He had to leave to get that. Then Rocky Robbins, he had to leave. And then Prince, he had to leave to go to New York. And so, while the Beach Boys could come up out of here, and the Monkees could come up out of here, and Dylan could come up out of here, we could not. We couldn't even do it in boxing.
So Minneapolis, and I would say still today, did not give opportunities to black people.
In any area.
In any area. And so the way was the only hope of opportunity.
Yeah, because we were knocking down those doors. We knocked down the doors for firefighters, police officers, to work in the hospitals, to work in the schools, to drive the city bus. We fought those fights. To work on the freeway, we fought those fights. Even though I had kids, they would fight. We won all those battles. They had to be better because there was no way for our people to hear their music. You got to deliver our music. So you're going to have to be an artist to learn to play this music. Just like it is. You can put shit at the end, but they got to hear the songs you can't hear in Minnesota. See, when you go to a black city, you're hearing your music, all the artists, all day. In Minnesota, you're waiting 4 hours to just hear the biggest artists we got one time. And he might not come back to tomorrow or 2 or 3 days from now. So you're going up with only white music. So when the audience comes, can we hear our music?
That mixture of the rock music definitely became a part of what became the Minneapolis Sound, correct?
Well, the creativeness between the bond of jazz would do it in anybody's music. Because now you can rip them runs. You know what I'm saying? You can really rip them runs. They just don't do the song and stop in jazz. And that's what made our kids better. And the fact that you create, jazz makes you create. They were able to create at such a young age. That's why when you talked about Pierre, he made his own album. You see what I'm saying? But think about this. Most of them had their own music on the cassette. But what can you do with it? And the tragedy is, no one had more power over making records in Minnesota. Polydor, Polygram owned most of the labels. And then check this out. 394 used to be Highway 12, right? On that north side of the road is the home of Pickwick, right next door. When you get to the Cadillac lot, the next lot was Pickwick. That's the largest record distributor in the world when there was records. So we had everything self-contained and couldn't get.
Would the Minneapolis Sound have existed without Prince?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because everything he learned from them older brothers. So, right. Oh yeah.
So he was just a part of the system.
He's part
He was a
of the
cog in the wheel.
sound. He just made it. But if you'd have put any more of them out there, they would have made it.
Could we ever have an artistic movement like that again in the community?
I blame myself for that. I think I shared with you that Kurt's sister and Tyrone Terrell came and picked me up and took me to see this building. And I said, okay, I went. And then they said, that's what you can have this building. To build a school again. And because I was procrastinating, I didn't know, could I do it again? And he died while I was procrastinating. So I take full blame for that because I would have put his name on that bill.